Backseat driver. Good evening. I would like to call our regular council meeting on Monday, November 24th to order at 6 p.m. Good evening to colleagues on council. I'm Mayor McNeil Smith. To my far right, Councillor Duck, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Garnett. To my far left, Councillor Novick, Councillor O'Keefe, and Councillor O'Toole. Good evening to members of staff and good evening to members of the public, both in the chamber and those who may be watching the live web stream. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we're holding our meeting in the territory of the Wasanich people, the Sayot Nation, the Sartlip Nation, the Pakwachin Nation, the Sakim Nation, and the Malahat Nation. In turning to approval of the agenda, we have three changes since the agenda was published last Thursday. The first, all three concern items of correspondence for information. 15.7 is an email from regarding tennis courts and pickleball, and I would like to remove that item as I have a meeting with that person and a pickleball representative this week, and it may or may not come forward back to council after that. The second is that Councillor Garnett has requested raising item 15.8, which is an email from B. Johnstone regarding residential parking permit pilot program, and that will become item 14A. And Councillors O'Keefe and Novick have requested raising item 15.9, the email from Housing Reset expressing concerns about Bill M216, and we'll make that item 14B. And with those three changes, I'd look for movers to approve the agenda. Sorry, I do have two other changes. One change is under councillor reports. Councillor Duck is providing a report on the agenda for SIPP. Councillor has requested two additional brief reports. One is the Salish Peninsula Water and Wastewater Commissions that he attended last week, and the second is with regards to Ananavets, Army, Navy, Air Force event that he and other councillors attended. And Councillor Garnett has requested a brief report on the Shaw Discovery Centre. With those changes, if I could have movers, Councillors Duck and Novick, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Sorry, Councillor O'Keefe.
Yes, thank you. No, just in regards to the 15.7 on the tennis courts and the pickleball. What I'd like to see is it come back to council to clarify, because what I'm concerned about is.
Councillor, yeah, it will come back in some fashion.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? That carries, thank you. So we're now turning to public participation, an opportunity for members of the public to come forward to address council. We ask that you keep your remarks to 4 minutes. When you come up, if you can provide your name and the municipality you reside in. And there is just a button to make the microphone live. I'll call for a first time. Does anyone wish to come forward this evening? We don't have anyone online. I'll call a second time. Not seeing any. And a third time. I'll close the public participation period. And we have a special public participation period this evening because we're looking to make amendments to our Council Procedure Bylaw. And this is to amend the Council and Committee of the Whole summer meeting schedule and other housekeeping items. We're required and did provide notice in 2 editions of the Peninsula News Review and otherwise. And we've received no written submissions as of this evening. I'll call for a first time. Does anyone wish to speak to the Council Procedure Bylaw? Not seeing any. I'll call for a second time and a third time. So we'll close that special public participation period. We have no public hearings or presentations this evening, so we're turning to item 5A under bylaws, and it is bylaw number 2299, the Council Procedure Amendment number 1. To amend, as I indicated, and this evening, Council, we have consideration of giving first, second, and third reading in separate motions. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you. I'll move first reading.
Second.
Those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Those opposed? Councillor Garnett is opposed. Motion carries.
Move second reading.
Second reading.
Second.
And seconded. Discussion. Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, I've been opposed to this from the start, and I continue to be. I won't go into all the reasons I've reiterated in the past, but just reflecting back on the past summer, we canceled the meeting in August, and the August meeting of regular council was lengthy. The one presentation, that part took over an hour, so I realize we can call a meeting at any time if we cancel it, but I think it does give a level of predictability to the public when they can map out our meetings for the entire year, and we can cancel at the last minute if we need to. But I think it will and could possibly, and shown in that meeting, put undue pressure on a regular council meeting, only having one in that month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no further discussion, Councillor Duck.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Councillor Garnett's point of information. I'm wondering, District North Sash recently did this with agendas coming out earlier in the week. I'm wondering if this may be a way in which we can address Councillor Garnett's issue, not relative to each meeting, but certainly to give more notice to the public about what's coming up on the agenda. And I don't know if this is the place to insert it here, because would it be the same bylaw? Thank you.
Well, I'll turn to staff. In terms of the timing of when the agenda comes out to the public is not covered per se in the Council Procedures Bylaw, I don't believe. I'll turn to Ms. Nelson. Great, thank you.
So our council agenda, our procedure bylaw indicates that the notice will go out at least 24 hours before the time of the meeting. And we accept items up until Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. So there is a time limit there, and but not an actual like set time for an early agenda. It's usually Tuesday with the agenda going out on the Thursday for that at least 24-hour notice.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Duck, I think some municipalities do publish their agendas earlier, and I think it is important to note that there is a bit of a challenge with the drafting of reports, especially when we might have a council direction on one meeting that can, let's say, from a committee of the whole and or from another one council meeting to the next, and it does compress the time frame between meetings, and so it can be difficult to turn reports around for the next available council meeting. Certainly it's entirely feasible to do that, but with smaller municipalities, what I've noticed is that then the turnaround from one council meeting to the next is impacted if council's wanting to see a quick turnaround on a report. It does provide for, earlier notice. It usually allows council to have more time with the materials, so there are some benefits, but it makes it very difficult for quick turnaround on items that where you want that quick turnaround.
Thank you. If I could provide a little clarification and just turn to Ms. Nelson. So, so the minimum is 24 hours notice of the agenda, but in practice, our meetings are on Monday evening, unless there's a holidays on the Tuesday, but our agendas are published generally by noon on Thursday.
They're generally published, the maximum is 4 p.m. on a Thursday.
Or 4 p.m. on Thursday,
Yeah.
Thank you. And just so, council members know the process, but just so the members of the public know the process, staff reports and as Ms. Nelson indicated, submissions from members of the public are received by 4:30 on Tuesday. The CAO and myself do the agenda review generally on Wednesday or early Thursday morning for it to have that deadline to go out. So it would change things. It would change those 3 steps if we were to change. Does that help, Councillor Duck?
It does, and I think it would be, since it isn't defined in the procedure bylaw, that it might be worthy of us sort of to explore the opportunity to get things out sooner. I know councillors are then engaged very actively Monday to get questions to staff and in preparation for tonight's meeting or the evening's meeting. And I'm just wondering if we can expedite that, and certainly to Mr. Edwards' point, that may mean that some reports are later to the agenda or can be added to an agenda, but our bylaw currently says 24 hours in advance of the meeting, which doesn't necessarily need to be changing, but I'm wondering if we can just maybe take a look at getting things out a little sooner, both for the public and council to evaluate prior to a meeting.
Sorry, just to understand what you're suggesting is earlier than 4 p.m. on Thursday?
Correct.
Okay, I think staff would have to take direction from council if those processes of staff reports and public submissions by 4:30 on Tuesday were to change, and the agenda review with CAO and mayor was to change, leading up to that.
Well, so that was the initiation. My question is that do we address this within this, since we're making a councillor procedure bylaw at this point, amendment to it, do we add that as part to make it all in one package?
No, thank you for restating your question. So, no, to answer, given that we have a minimum of 24 hours notice, it doesn't, I don't think it requires a change in our bylaw. It would just require a change in our practice, which staff could receive from direction from council, and that would be, I would consider that a motion arising or a notice of motion at a future meeting. Ms. Nelson, please.
So I just wanted to let you know that while we accept correspondence in by Tuesday 4:30 and staff reports by Tuesday 4:30, agenda reviews are typically done on a Wednesday, and that gives us time if there are any changes need to be made or additions or deletions, gives us that time. So I'm not sure exactly how sooner we can get that out. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, certainly there are, when we do agenda review, there can be changes to reports or items being, lifted or so on. But thank you, Councillor Duck, for raising that. Any further discussion? So we're calling the question on second reading. Those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Garnett is opposed. The motion carries.
I'll move third reading.
Second.
And seconded. Those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Garnett is opposed. The motion carries. So that will come back to a future meeting for consideration of adoption. Thank you. We're next turning to item 6A under development permits. We have development variance permit application number DV 100377 and development permit application number DP 100853 at 9824 3rd Street to reduce the width of the drive aisle to increase percentage of lot area occupied by parking and to increase the number of small car parking spaces in order to construct a 4-story mixed-use development consisting of commercial space on the ground floor and 3 upper floors containing 9 residential units. We did provide notice to area members of the public, and we have had 4 written submissions as of this evening. We do have a recommendation. I will indicate that we do have a representative of the application, Mr. Lowe. If there were any questions that council members had, we could invite Mr. Lowe into the meeting to take those questions. But we do have a staff recommendation. I'll turn to council's pleasure. Councillor Duck.
I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Please.
That DV 100377 and DP 100853 be approved subject to the conditions as per council resolution number 2025.27.307.
Thank you. Second. We have it moved and seconded. I'll turn to the movers, please.
No, I think this is a good solution to an empty space we had that was severely limiting. I think that the proponent has come forward with a great design that will fit in and has adjusted the design with recommendations from staff as well as neighbors. And I think it's a good solution, so I'd like to see it go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn to the seconder, Councillor Novak.
Nothing really to add. I'm satisfied that it's reasonable for the type and form of building being contemplated.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the motion, but just a question through you to staff. Just in regards to, there's a letter from the Strata Council that had some questions or concerns about how things would be managed during construction, pedestrian access and sidewalks and those sorts of things. Will we be responding to the letter to let them know about our, construction management plans and those sort of things that I believe staff normally put in place?
Ms. Verhagen, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Through the mayor to Councillor O'Keefe. I think we already have responded to the letter at a staff level, but if we have not, I'll ensure that we do to let them know that is part of the building permit application review to look at those construction management plans.
Okay, that's
Thank
great. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that they had received a response. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're next turning to adoption of minutes. If I could have movers to approve the minutes of our meeting, regular council meeting, November 10th. We have Councillors Duck and Novick. Any corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. None opposed, that carries. No business not completed at a previous meeting. No rise and report from a previous meeting. I don't have a mayor's report this evening. We'll turn to the first of our council reports. Councillor Duncan, please, on the Regional Water Supply Commission.
Yeah, thank you. These are notes from the meeting that took place last Wednesday, November 19th. We continued our discussion about DCCs at the CRD level for the water supply. We had paused this process, or this year is delayed, sorry, I guess, or paused due to the province's housing affordability regulations that came in. And since DCCs it was a potential concern that this could affect housing affordability, we could not implement these until April of 2027. However, we are continuing with engagement as we go forward with that. And we did have, so this was the report back from the second phase of engagement. We had 97 responses, which we did have a member of the public come forward to say was not very good, and say that maybe he thinks the CRD doesn't have the greatest of engagement strategies. And CRD staff were responding to that because this is obviously feedback the CRD gets increasingly about how to do public engagement about large strategic plans and things. And they did point out that for the strategic plan, we got 450 responses using kind of the same engagement. So it's hard to tell how much is that people are just finding this is a big topic and they don't know what they could add to it, and how much is that we're not reaching everybody. But for people who are concerned about the CRD's engagement strategy, they are kind of taking feedback on that, and they are looking at how to do that. And they do have people in HR looking at that going forward. But the biggest piece of engagement that we got was, of course, from UDI, and they submitted a letter and they had a consultant do a report. And so if anyone's really interested in it, it's a very interesting read because they were trying to generate data to question how the CRD came up with the calculations, and the CRD did respond to that. And what we've seen since we started talking about this is that the economic conditions have changed quite a bit in the growth scenario, that the new growth projections that BC Stats is using are down 68% from the original. And so they're saying, we're looking at a growth rate going forward of 0.5% instead of 1.5%. And so there's some ongoing question about that, but we're kind of confident that if we keep going forward with this process, but by the time we'd be implementing this with the municipal assist factor and how they'd be calculating the rates, we'll have better clarity on that. But in the meantime, when staff comes back with their next report on this, they're going to be looking at how we may or may not be able to put in waivers and grants for nonprofit housing. At least one First Nation has questioned whether there's a mechanism to include that for them if they're building off reserve. Right now, on reserve is exempt from DCCs, but if they have, say, a partnership on a parcel of off reserve land, that they are looking at whether, because they're a partner, they would be able to be encompassed in that mechanism if it wasn't a nonprofit. That's still under discussions. If we do implement this, the CRD is hoping that we'll start at one rate and then in 2030 refresh it. A lot of municipalities, when they implemented their DCCs, actually had in the implementation a phased in. So if they had a municipal assist factor that started at 25%, they would then drop it over the next 3 years down to the standard 1%. The CRD was looking at saying for 3 years we'd implement one rate, see how that went. In 2030, implement a new bylaw with the new rate in it, as they felt that would just be easier to coordinate in our region. And so what we were really deciding on was the municipal assist factor, given the new data about growth projections, and the fact that housing is still very unaffordable. UDI is saying DCCs would probably delay new housing starts for every type of housing by up to 1 year. However, when you look at their graph, that the current economic conditions already delay housing starts for 5 to 22 years, depending on the size of the project. So that's got to be put in context. So we were deciding between municipal assist factors of 25% or 1%, and staff had recommended 25, but in the end it was a very close margin, and we asked to start at 1%. With what to my mind was the best justification was simply that since this won't be happening until 2027, we'd like to tell the development community their worst case scenario, which is that it's 99% taken on, by their costs. We only assist 1%, is what they should be planning for. And then if in the end we could give a higher municipal assist factor, we'll do that rather than to go in at 25 and 2 years from now say municipal finances and tax rates are such that we don't think people would swallow this, and now we're going to change it on you. So that's what we're going forward with the development of that bylaw. Any questions? I can try to answer them now.
Thanks, Councillor Duncan. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you for that. I'm curious about the, why, did they give any reasons as to why the growth is anticipated? Are they talking about population growth?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And any reasons for that? Is that due to reduced immigration or like? Both changes to federal immigration targets and I think changes in interprovincial migration trends. Okay. And then one other one. Are they anticipating, did they have different levels of DCC depending on different types of structures, like multifamily versus single family?
Yes.
SMU housing?
Yeah, so our consultant, and this will be something staff will actually come back with what ours would be, but that kind of show for each type of thing, because it could be a main pipe, or it could be, if we build a new dam or whatever. And so for each type of thing that we'd be building, we calculate how much should go to different, to new growth versus existing growth. And then for certain growth areas, and then for single family versus multifamily, how much extra individual things you need for each door, I guess you could say, does get factored in. So obviously a DCC for a single family home is greater per individual unit than it would be for somebody purchasing an individual unit, or for the sale price of an individual unit in an apartment building.
Okay, and so those amounts are in that report, okay. Because I think that'd be interesting for all of us to look at, actually, if we're gonna be considering DCCs here, to be considering that, if we have started a DCC program, that we need to consider what also might be leveled at the CRD level then.
Yeah, and it depends on, and it's not just what they're building, but what we would be building too, which was where the population projections come in. So they're also set on, say, if they say it would be, I think it's roughly $7,000 or $8,000 per door for a single family home, which if you compare to Vancouver, which is, I think it was like 60 or something. It's very, because they're very dense. But if the population stayed low enough that we didn't require, say, the leach watershed and all that extra infrastructure, the DCCs would be lower because we didn't have to fund building that. Yeah. And so they're all provisional based on what ends up happening, which is why it would need to be refreshed every 3 years. So, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I'll turn next to Councillor Duck and your 3 reports, please.
Thank you, Chair. First up, I'll talk about the South Island Prosperity Partnership. As you may recall, they presented to us a couple council meetings ago, and they will be wrapping up their presentations to member municipalities on the 8th of December, with Esquimalt being the final member to be addressed. This was, of course, to present the Rising Economy 2030 Economic Development Plan that they have for the region. Just as a reminder, you can find that anytime you need to at Rising Economy website. But it is interesting to see this come forward. This has been a year-long process to develop this economic plan, and it starts operationalizing tomorrow with Local Leadership Day, which is where it initiated last year, with gathering information and input to develop this economic plan. So it'll start tomorrow with local leadership and continue through the next few years. Looking at a number of items, one is to identify KPIs, key performance indicators, for this plan to demonstrate to members that there's a return on their investment, which right now is estimated at 1.67 on the dollar. They will be coming back to the member municipalities and also going to those non-member municipalities to see if they can re-engage them. But they will be coming back to see how this economic plan integrates with local plans as well as strategic initiatives and that sort of thing, so that they can start to integrate the processes more across the board than in the past. Just looking at my notes here. They have also just received a funding for loan process improvement, which will work. It's a 30-month program that will work with small-scale manufacturing sector to see if they can improve their efficiency and productivity to compete both nationally and globally. So SIPP will be working with those organizations to see if they can improve their appeal to the market, given the trade barriers that exist today. The other two offshoots from SIPP, Coast and IPC, are equally doing as well. Coast is now recognized as one of the North America's strongest blue economy operations, and is attracting information manufacturers and input to innovation from around the globe, but certainly from North America. And IPC is continuing to do their work with Indigenous populations and have a very successful youth program this year, and are going to replicate that next year with a second conference, and indicated to them that if they provide that information, I'm sure there'll be councillors who would like to attend their functions in doing that. So early in the new year, they'll be focusing on operational alignment with the plan, the economic rising economy, and hit the ground running with the delivery of that. And I think that's all I've got on that program. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Thank you. Just one. You were talking about the loan. Did you say that they've submitted the application for the grant, or that they actually received the grant?
They've got the funding.
So they did get the funding?
Yes.
So, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was, and they had talked about being able to support our manufacturing sector across the way, and possibly setting up an office out here as well.
Correct.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
And in fact, just on that note, that office is destined for, I believe, the District of North Sandwich. Opposite OSI is the current plan.
Thanks for the update. Not seeing any other questions. Please continue.
All right, on behalf of Councillor Novak, I attended the Sandwich Peninsula Wastewater Commission last week. Interesting meeting. The one key part that came out of that, I'm sure you've heard about the challenge of the pig at the McLaren wastewater treatment plant. But equally, there was a similar but smaller scale problem out at our wastewater treatment plant. And they had an exceptional discharge there that upset the biologics of the system, and they're trying to reset those. But just to let people know that it wasn't the biological treatment they have in the plant, was the whole system was set out of kilter, but it exceeded the limits, but not as much as raw sewage, for example. But they're working on resolving that. There will be more details of that coming out, because they're just trying to figure out where it happened and how it came forward. It was they don't know if it was a residential or a commercial impact area, but there will be future details on that in the future.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions. Please continue.
On Saturday, colleagues Councillor O'Keefe and Councillor Duncan and Councillor Garnett and I attended the annual ANF Community Grants Program. Tremendous. They gave out $90,000 to 20 different organizations in the greater Victoria area. It wasn't just the Salish Peninsula. And I think that was remarkable, given that this is an organization that raises all that money internally, and have been successfully doing that for at least 3 years, where they now have donated $250,000. And that, by the way, given the small little organization, is the largest in Canada of its nature. So I think that's remarkable, and just want to reach out to say well done to them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Garnett, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's just very brief. Sorry for the late notice on this. I just got an update from the Executive Director on Sunday evening. Just to shine some light on the annual Salish Sea Idol 2025 this year at the Shaw Centre. It's a fundraising for the centre that provides funding for animal care and education programs. And their goal this year is to raise $16,000. And they had the same donors from last year also say that if you made over 10, they would match to 10, so they can really double their money essentially. And so at this point, they've just over 11,500 of the 16,000 they want to reach, and that's approximately 72% of their goal. And I just checked on that this afternoon. And your choices are the herring, the camas, which is a lovely plant, the bull kelp, and the bumblebee. And currently the bumblebee is kind of smashing things and is quite well ahead, which is surprising. The herring is in actually last place, so if you enjoy the herring, please help them pull up the numbers for that. If you're able to help support this fundraising event, it'd be very much appreciated. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions? Thank you for the update. We're next. We don't have any committee reports under 12 this week. We do have 2 staff reports. The first is under 13A is the 2026 local government election. We have a report from our corporate officer, Ms. Nelson. I'll turn to you for an introduction, please.
Thank you. This report is regarding next year's municipal election and the appointment of a chief election officer and deputy chief election officer. The other thing I wanted to point out was to address the need for new voting machines. As advised at the end of the previous election, the town's 20-plus-year-old voting machines are no longer able to be serviced, or we can't receive any parts. It's basically obsolete, so there will be a slight increase in the election budget to address the rental of these new machines, and that's all I wanted to point out. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll turn if there are any questions. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I recall last election, seems like it was just yesterday, but staff did what I thought was a really good job in making the voting process more accessible. And you had, I think, curb balloting. You had something set up with the Shoal Center to allow Shoal Center help seniors fax in requests for. So I presume we'll see the same sort of things happening this year.
Yes, we've done curbside voting for a long, long time.
Okay, I just found out about it
But we
last
do,
week.
and we also work with long-term senior care facilities and working with them on getting their seniors registered and voting and things like that. So
Okay.
we do work with them as well.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Duck,
I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
please.
I move that Sandy Nelson be appointed the Chief Election Officer and Krista Baxter be appointed the Deputy Chief Election Officer for the Town of Sydney 2026 local government election.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Well, I'll turn to the movers first. Any discussion? Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out that this will be the 7th election that it says you've done previously 6.
Well, as the chief election officer.
Yeah, chief election officer.
But I've done more.
Oh, no, I realize that. But in this particular function, this will be your 7th one, and that's no easy feat. So
And last one, thank you.
just want to point out, appreciate that you've done this much time, and because it's a lot of extra work, and having been there and watched the results come out last time, it's very impressive to see staff in that capacity. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call a question. Those in favour? That carries unanimous. And under 13B, we have the monthly building permit report. It is for information, no recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? Not seeing any. I just want to thank staff for the addition of the new chart with regards to small-scale multi-unit residential in our community. And so we are turning to correspondence. So we've raised two items. The first was item 15.8, the email from B. Johnstone, and I'll turn to Councillor Garnett, who raised it.
Thank you, Mayor. I just for Mr. Johnstone, just to let him know that I went back and my recollection after reading this and I went back and read staff reports just to confirm, and just for clarity's sake, and I'll get staff to weigh in. I believe that this was based on the 2022 downtown traffic study, and we in the report that staff had brought forward, and the previous director of engineering, Ms. Clary, had mentioned that they were recommending 3rd Street between Sydney Avenue and Henry Avenue as the area that would be initially done. And it was if there would be a mail-out, 67% support in the initiative would move it forward in the response rate within a timeline. And then if there wasn't that didn't meet that threshold, that it would go to the next area of 75%. I just want to clarify with staff if they could just confirm that what I'm saying is true, just so Mr. Johnstone, if he watches the meeting, can have a response of a more specific nature.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Garnett, I believe that is correct, yeah.
And if I may, I know this is it's based on staff capacity, but do we have any kind of inclination as to when the mail-out might take place?
I don't have a timeline available at this point, but I do know that our new director of engineering is working on this file. He and I did discuss some of the materials, including the map and things like that, last week. So I would anticipate it wouldn't be too far off before that happens.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the information. I think it's just there might be other people on that particular street that are thinking this was coming, and I think it's good information to know that it's not been lost. It's in the queue, and it'll be reached when staff capacity allows for it to happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Given we raised it from correspondence to correspondence for information to correspondence, if we could have a motion to receive, Councillor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, not seeing any further discussion. Those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And next I'll turn to Councillors O'Keefe and Novak, who wish to raise item 15.9. I'll turn to you, Councillor O'Keefe.
Sure, thank you. This seems to be creating quite a buzz with municipalities, and I just want to check in with staff to kind of get a better understanding. I did read the material that was forwarded from the Planning Institute and read the legislation, and just a bit of clarity for me is, so I understand what's being proposed is that municipalities would be required to accept if the developer has plans or geotech surveys or whatever it is that we require, and they go out and they get their person to give their official stamp of approval that we're required to allow that. So my understanding was that do we not do that already, or like I know that we see geotechnical reports come in from the developer and architect. So I'm just trying to figure out how this, if we're doing that already or not, and how this might impact us.
Right, through the mayor to Councillor O'Keefe, I may turn to our Director of Development Services as well for assistance here on responding to this, because this is a very complex issue that has been brought before the provincial legislature in a very what seems to be a very rapid approach or time frame, and with very little consultation and engagement from a local government context. So we're still trying to understand the full implications of the proposed legislation. But in answer to your question, yes, we currently rely heavily on the professional environment to provide assurances that development proposals meet existing provincial or local regulatory requirements. I think the primary difference of what we're seeing with this proposed legislation is the requirement for local governments to accept that professional opinion with fewer opportunities to question that or dispute that. And so currently, as it stands, when we receive a professional opinion that the town staff may have concerns about, we would hire, we can go back and we can ask questions about it, but ultimately if we have a dispute, we would hire a similarly qualified professional to review, and ideally there'd be a resolution that comes through that process of that alternative professional review. What the province is proposing now is that that whole dispute would go through an existing body called the Superintendent of Professional Governance, and that existing body would adjudicate this dispute. And what's not clear is whether or not that existing body has both the experience, expertise, as well as the capacity to take on the myriad of disputes that might arise between all 189 local governments in the province and these professional reports that come forward. And so it's not that we are concerned about the professional oversight. We currently rely heavily on that, and we welcome that. It's more around this new dispute mechanism that's being considered, and whether or not that will begin to erode the local government's autonomy and decision-making capacity or authority around its built environment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, yeah, thanks for that. So we are doing it, but this would kind of take away kind of that final discretion that we have if our staff, who are also engineers and planners, experts in that field, see that, hey, I think you missed something here, that opportunity for our staff to step in is kind of no longer available unless it goes to that dispute process.
I think hopefully there would still be that opportunity if an applicant, if an application was deficient with regards to our local requirements, we would still be able to identify those deficiencies and ask that those deficiencies be addressed. Where it could become challenging is if there's pushback from a qualified professional that says, from my professional opinion, I believe that all of your requirements have been satisfied, and so then now we're in a dispute, and now that dispute gets essentially adjudicated through this new provincial, it's not a new provincial body, it's an existing provincial
Yeah,
body. But
that's
it's this new process that we're not currently using.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll turn to Councillor Novak, the seconder.
Thank you. I've heard what you said, but in looking at the legislation as it's currently written, we already accept plans from certified architects and certified engineers. So from the question of professional expertise, I don't think there's a concern. The concern that I have is that the legislation says a local government must accept as meeting permit or bylaw requirements. That's the part that bothers me. That we now have a party outside Municipal Hall stating that their plans meet our bylaws or our permitting requirements. And that's the part that's hard for me to swallow. It's basically taking that, and even though it may not happen very often, maybe quite infrequently, but should the situation arise, and as you stated, if we want to contest it, it goes through a very lengthy process and basically takes the approval of a plan meeting our bylaws out of the hands of the elected officials in the municipality who supposedly, according to Local Government Act, have the right to approve development, building. I mean, community charter says that we have the right to approve buildings in our municipality. it's taking that measure of approval away from us. And so that's why I feel that this is of concern. It may be that on a practical level, day to day, it's not going to impact us dramatically. But to me, it's a thin edge of the wedge where the ability of municipal councils and municipal staff to manage their development activities and manage their growth is being put in the hands of third parties. And that's a problem to me. We still have the ability to pass bylaws, but we will no longer have the ability of saying to a developer, you don't meet our bylaw requirements if the engineer says that they do. And if we want to contest it, it's a problem. I don't think that's the way to go. So
So Councillor Novak,
I have a motion arising. I don't know if there's more discussion before we get to that, or if you want to put the motion on the table and then discuss it.
yeah, I think you're kind of motivating for the notice of motion, or the motion that is going to come forward. So I just wanted to interject there for a moment, but I'm going to first turn to Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to staff, just to clarify with respect to a couple of statements that have been made. Currently, a qualified engineer reviews drawings, applications with respect to flood construction level, as an example, perhaps others that I'm not aware of. The town, correct me if I'm wrong, accepts the opinion of the professional engineer on their assessment evaluation of FCL, is that correct?
That's correct.
However, if there's a concern here from staff, and I'm not, I suspect there is, but have we, is there precedent where we have questioned a professional engineer's finding with respect to flood construction level on a project? And if so, what's the current resolution? You've acknowledged the superintendent of professional governance under the PGA Act has existed for probably 4 years now. Is it through that body currently, if we have ever had occasion to appeal?
No, currently, if we were to appeal, I'm not sure if the town has entered into a dispute where we've hired our own third-party professional to review an applicant's professional. But if we were to do that, it would not go through the superintendent process that they're proposing right now. If that, the EGBC, the Engineers Geoscientists of BC, have a protocol which they would adhere to. I have been involved in similar cases with different professions, including architects, registered biologists, and agrologists. So it's 3 examples that I've been involved with, and where a municipality has hired their own professional to then review the opinion of the applicant, and typically it can get resolved fairly simply through that review process. And thankfully, I haven't been involved in one that ended up going further than simply those 2 professionals coming to agreement on what the outcome should be. What is unclear for me anyway right now with the proposed legislation is the more detailed elements of this dispute resolution process, and what that might look like, what sort of timeframes there might be in place, and so I think that's what's a bit concerning, and to what is the full scope of the ability for a registered professional to say that they have satisfied municipal or local government requirements. Currently, we rely on this model. It's called the professional reliance model. We rely on it quite heavily, and for the most part, it's very positive, and it only becomes challenging when you run into this dispute, these moments of dispute, and so it's the lack of clarity around what this new office will be doing, the sort of timeframes that they would be committed to and things like that. And
Thank you, if I may, Mayor. Thank you, and interestingly, the professions you noted, agrologists, architects, among others, are also administered by the Superintendent of Professional Governance, and seemingly this includes them then, if this dispute resolution ultimately evolves under this proposed legislation. So it could well be, based on your experience, that indeed there is occasion to challenge decisions in some form. So I understand your hesitancy or concern with respect to the potential for dispute resolution and the mechanism to resolve that. More importantly, in my mind, it's the consultation process and what it's looked like. And if I could ask staff to clarify, I know it was referred to as legislation, but this is a bill that's, I guess, been introduced in the legislature. I'm assuming from the timeline that's suggested here in the letters that they're looking potentially to have this receive royal assent prior to the end of this sitting of the legislature, I'm guessing, which is probably the end of the second week of December. How much opportunity is there really at this point for comment or consultation? What phase is this bill at?
well, right now it's at second reading, and so they're accepting comment until December 3rd, is my understanding. And so they're looking for feedback. They're looking for comment. Having been a part of the provincial legislative process, it's hard to know if this is one of those bills where it has the full sort of weight of a majority of members to be advanced or not. My sense is that there's been very little communication, very little awareness about this bill, and it's catching most stakeholders off guard. And I would hope that if the primary request, I think, that is needed to be asked is for more time. And I would hope that if the province were to hear that request come out loud and clear from local governments, professional agencies, and the Union of BC Municipalities, then I would hope that they would slow this process down. So that would be my personal opinion.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll turn to Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to colleagues for raising this. I had actually on my list to raise it as well, but I stood down when I saw that there were already 2 people in the queue. And I think it's important that we're having this discussion publicly, because I think it's another thing that, as well, very little knowledge of this in the public realm. And I think of Bill 44 and the letter we have on our agenda tonight, and people still don't completely understand small-scale multi-unit housing and how it relates to the OCP. So I think it's important to have this discussion publicly. I'm just wondering about, in the letter we got here, wanting staff to weigh in on the part about the alternative local government. If an elected council proves too slow, I'm trying to put my mind around what that actually would mean. Like, an alternative local government. So there's a body that's appointed that's not elected by the citizens who live in the constituency. It's on the bottom of page 55 of the eroding municipal self-determination. That one to me is really alarming if that's in fact, and I read the legislation and I guess it's an interpretation, but. Through the mayor to Councillor Garnett, I'm not sure what that's referring to. Yeah, okay. Because I don't have the legislation in front of me to actually look at it, but I saw their interpretation of the letter, and I'm like, well, what would that even look like, and what's too slow? And if that was in fact part of the legislation, that would be very troublesome.
Again, I'm not aware of these elements of the proposed legislation around elected councils being too slow. That has not really come to my attention in the reviews and discussions that I've been having. So I'm not sure what this letter is referring to there. I'll turn to our Director of Development Services to see if she's come across that.
Ms. Verhagen.
Sure, thank you. No, I hadn't noted that. I'm looking at the proposed bill here, as it appears on the provincial website, it does say in section 9, without limiting subsection 1, the lieutenant governor and council may make regulations to A, designate a local body as a local government for the purpose of this act or the regulation. So maybe that is what the letter writer is picking up on and wondering what does that mean. But that's
Yeah.
not something we can explain at this point. That would be a great question to the proponent of this bill.
Yeah, okay, great, yeah, thank you. Like, and same thing, I remember reading that part as well, but in the context of what the letter writer, I mean, they're just trying to, I guess this is just an example of a bill that's being really poorly explained. Otherwise, you know, people wouldn't be able to try and make their own understandings out of what is written. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Novak, you indicated you had a motion arising.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the mayor write a letter expressing concern over the proposed Private Members Bill M216, entitled Professional Reliance Act, its implications to the work of our planning staff, and its ultimate effect on the ability of local governments to fully exercise control over development within its boundaries, with copies of this letter to be sent to the Premier, MLA George Anderson, UBCM, and the Minister of Municipal Affairs, along with any other individual or body that are deemed appropriate.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further motivation?
I think you heard me. The things that I've just heard even recently, and I did note them when I originally looked at the bill, but I'm concerned about the idea that this bill specifically is saying that the lieutenant governor can designate a body to basically usurp the municipal council in a given jurisdiction. It's a private members bill. My sense is that it came out as a private members bill to ensure that it didn't get the kind of illumination that most government bills have before they're voted upon. It's almost as though they snuck it in through the back door because they didn't want a lot of discussion or a lot of attention focused on it. And I think for those reasons alone, in addition to the reasons I indicated earlier, that this motion is important, that we must at least go on the record to express our concern about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, please.
Yeah, I guess my question's about the wording of this. Our staff seem to have kind of very specific concerns about it that were mostly around timing. Does the wording of this motion as it is allow the mayor to write a letter that kind of encompasses specifically our staff's concern with this?
I would turn to staff if they had comment. Mr. Edwards?
I think there's enough latitude in this motion for staff to add, like, you know, the desire for further engagement prior to royal assent or advancing it further.
If there was, thank you. If I may interject, Councillor Duncan, I think if there was one small part of a phrase, it's the part that its implications to the work of our planning staff. I mean, I think there could be implications for other staff, and so I might suggest removal of that. It would then read that we write a letter over the proposed private members bill. Expressing concern, over the expressing concern over the proposed private members bill. I won't repeat that. And its ultimate effect on the ability of local governments to fully exercise control over development in its boundaries. It just removes the planners because there are other professionals on staff. I'll move that amendment.
Yeah, second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. You had the floor, Councillor.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garnett again.
Thank you, Chair. Or thank you, Mayor. Sorry, Mayor. I will support the motion. I guess from an overall, I mean, reading the bill, for me, what's problematic is it starts with the premise that local governments and staff are not doing the best they can to create housing opportunities. And I've heard the description from the member who's brought the bill forward, speaking to this will streamline, it'll make it quicker, all these things. I mean, there are maybe some municipalities in this province that aren't pulling their weight, aren't doing things as the province wants, but this municipality is, and others like us are. And I don't like the fact that it's incorporating every municipality and penalizing every municipality, and just starting with the premise that we're not doing our job properly, because that's essentially what it's saying. And for me, that's problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duck, please.
Just want to add, and thank you, Councillor Duncan, for bringing up the timing piece, but I also want to add that there is already a vehicle at the provincial level to moderate housing needs and housing delivery, and we don't need any more tools. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that, I will seek to call the question. Those in favor? That does carry unanimous. Thank you. And so then we...
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
I just asked staff if they're okay with the wording with those changes that have been made.
Very good, thank you. And so we do have the remaining items under correspondence for information. They're being received by virtue of being our agenda. We don't require a motion. We have no notices of motion this evening. I'll turn to Councillor Garnett, who kindly has read innumerable notices of motion to go on camera.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that it is in the opinion of council that the public interest requires that persons other than members of the council and officers be excluded from the meeting to consider confidential matters regarding the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, and information that is prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, pursuant to Section 90.1E and J of the Community Charter, and that council continue the meeting in closed session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. We'll recess for just a couple of minutes for people to leave the chamber.